Welcome to the Introduction to Community-Based Service Learning. This video was created by the Irwin W. Steans Center for Community-Based Service Learning and Community Service Studies at DePaul University. The mission of the Irwin W. Steans Center is to develop mutually beneficial relationships with community organizations to engage DePaul students in educational opportunities grounded in Vincentian values of respect for human dignity and the quest for social justice.
Hello, my name is Siobhan O'Donoghue, and I work in the Division of Mission and Ministry, and I oversee faculty and staff mission engagement. Steans' work with community partners is grounded in the Vincentian understanding that we form each other, which is part of Vincentian wisdom. Such an approach might aptly be described as a form of accompaniment, which starts with an invitation to walk and serve together. This deconstructs the idea that we serve for. In terms of worldview, our Vincentian mission calls us to recognize the gifts that are found in communities, such as the individuals who make up the community or the physical space, and to see these as assets which provide a strong foundation upon which to build for the future. This is a very different type of worldview than the kind of approach that focuses on the deficits of a community, such as seeing only their needs or problems and viewing their situation as a problem to be fixed. In terms of approach, the Vincentian lens of our mission impacts how we work and how we view community organizations and how we work with them, such as emphasizing the partnerships as mutually beneficial. We get to work together and to share in the extraordinary work that is being done to address the issues of our time. Again, this is very different than a model that assumes we are bringing a level of expertise from outside a community in to solve its problems. For Steans, working in partnership in a spirit of accompaniment provides a way to serve together. That togetherness is key to our approach. Finally, in terms of how we understand relationships, the quality of the relationship is central to how we work in the community. So the understanding is that I'm here to deepen my understanding of the world and to learn about myself through sharing with others. The relationships that I form will form me, and hopefully vice versa. This is very different to thinking about the work in the community as a task to complete or to get done and then move on. Our approach also directly opposes any understanding of our role as being to save or change others. A Vincentian approach is that we walk together humbly.
What is community-based service learning? Service learning is a course-based, credit-bearing educational experience in which students participate in organized community engagement activity defined in collaboration with a community or set of communities. They reflect on their community-based experience in such a way as to gain further understanding of course academic content. They develop a broader appreciation of their discipline and an enhanced sense of personal values and civic responsibility. Community-based service learning is the integration of enhanced academic learning, reciprocal service with communities, and purposeful civic learning. Service learning is a pedagogy grounded in a theoretical framework with now decades of literature to support it. One of the key elements of that literature is the importance of cultural considerations when developing partnerships in the community where students are engaging with diverse populations. Critical for that development is the integration of reflection before, during, and after community engagement. Faculty should intentionally think about how reflection is integrated into classroom, written, and oral assignments, and how those assignments will be assessed. One of the ways to start thinking about service learning is through Kolb's experiential learning cycle, where students engage in concrete experience off campus. They learn how to reflect on their experiences and the observations they've had in the community or with communities. They begin to conceptualize concepts, theories, and abstract ways that now allow them to engage in the community and experience the community in new ways with a new set of lenses. Community-based service learning involves integration of DePaul's mission into teaching practices that promote civic engagement. It aligns both academic and civic objectives with instructional content to address community challenges. It creates learning environments that are inclusive, respectful, and productive. It encourages metacognition and reflection. It involves employing a fair and effective assessment strategy that integrates the experience into assignments and exams and other forms of assessment. There are numerous frameworks for thinking about how to develop a service learning component of a course. One of the frameworks that aligns well with DePaul's mission is Freire's notions of liberatory learning, which contrasts the banking model of education with one that develops critical consciousness and results from intervening in the world as transformers of the world. Freire notes, the more completely that students accept the passive role imposed upon them, the more they tend to simply adapt to the world as it is and to the fragmented view of reality deposited in them. Diving deeper into that critical service learning approach, Tania Mitchell talks about critical service learning as community-based service learning that provides students with the opportunity to change their own lives, to reframe how they see themselves and their identities, particularly their privileged ones. They come to reconstruct their identities, challenge their assumptions, and reframe what the distribution of power means both for them and for those with whom they work for social justice. Another framework that aligns well with DePaul's Vincentian mission is engaging in service learning through the lens of asset-based community development. With ABCD, students begin to see communities as the glass half full rather than the glass half empty. Rather than seeing people and communities as deficient and needy, asset-based community development and service learning encourages seeing them as having assets and capacities, and that engagement in service learning is engagement with helping to build assets and capacities within communities. This involves engagement in developing and understanding the assets of the communities through the lens of individuals, the associations they create, and the local institutions that support communities. The Asset-Based Community Development Institute identifies 6 key assets that every community has: individuals with gifts and talents, the associations they create, their physical assets of the community, the institutions within the community, the local economy, and the culture and stories of the community. Service learning engages with all these different types of assets in various ways. Within DePaul, we can think of the university as having institutional assets to support community development. One of those is service learning, how we integrate community engagement into teaching as a resource for communities and as a benefit for student learning. At DePaul, we break down service learning into different modalities. These modalities are not mutually exclusive and sometimes can be integrated and combined. The modality direct service involves students working to support existing programs at community-based organizations. This includes work in after-school programs, tutoring, working at a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen, and it involves aligning that work with curriculum directly. So, for example, students in an intermediate Spanish course may be exchanging an hour of English language conversation for an hour of Spanish language conversation as part of DePaul's Intercambio program.
So how does direct service work in the context of my course, Spirituality and Homelessness? This externship in service learning provides students the opportunity to reflect upon a direct service experience at a community-based organization addressing homelessness in Chicago. You'll see some of these partnering organizations from the last decade highlighted in the slide. Throughout the course, students reflect on their own beliefs and perceptions of homelessness and analyze the history, causes, policy, and solutions associated with homelessness. They reflect on stories told by people experiencing homelessness and learn about a wide range of sustained efforts to address it. What are a few examples of direct service requested by community partner organizations that foster a relational direct service experience? Well, some examples include prepare and serve meals, and joining residents for a shared meal, assist staff with front desk and check-in, overnight shifts at the shelter, one-on-one or small group tutoring, child care assistance, and skill building workshops, just to name a few. Community partners report DePaul students returning after the quarter with their family or friends, or connecting their workplace to the community partners to assist with fundraising, service opportunities, and spreading awareness. In this course, students reflect in journals and in class discussions on the Vincentian invitation to find the dignity in each person's story, to confront and break down stereotypes, to articulate an experience of what Paulo Freire calls concientización, in light of the service learning experience, to express an empathy that invites indignation and action, to move from a sense of me to we as their understanding of homelessness is humanized and prompts new personal and societal responses. At the end of their service learning experience, students are asked in their final project to research and frame a response to the Vincentian question, what must be done? With a realistic personal commitment in light of their service learning experience, an innovative, effective organizational response to homelessness, and a policy response or solution at local, state, national, or international levels. Numerous students share in their presentations a personal or family experience of doubling up or of housing instability, and connecting this experience with political and civic responses for the class to embrace. Finally, a call or a cry from the Speakers Bureau of the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless becomes an invitation to the class to organize and advocate to prevent and end homelessness because of a belief that housing is a human right in a just society. Thank you.
Project-based service learning involves tangible outcomes from courses, maps, databases, technical documents, documentary videos, the variety of projects that can be developed from courses, helping develop student skills while benefiting community partners.
My name is Jacqueline Jensen. I am an associate professor in the Department of Management and Entrepreneurship and associate dean for student success in the Driehaus College of Business. My area of teaching focuses on human resource management and consulting skills, and I have the privilege of teaching a consulting skills course that gives students the opportunity to learn the process and skills of consulting, ranging from entry and contracting with clients to problem diagnosis and discovery, to providing feedback and making recommendations, with an eye towards clients that are also dealing with a human capital issue or problem. Things like employee or staff or volunteer recruitment, retention, burnout, motivation, performance, you name it. To give students a taste of real-world consulting in this class, I do so via project-based service learning. Working closely with my collaborators in the Steans Center, we work to source clients, aka community partners, that may be facing one or more human capital challenges or issues. I talk specifically with the community partner about the issue that they may be facing and see if working with a consulting team of students would be something that would be of value and interest to them. In setting the stage with the client as well as the students, one of the fundamental things that I embed in the way that I teach is that both parties see each other as mutual beneficiaries, as true collaborators in this process. From the students in particular, it requires listening, understanding, and really seeking to understand their clients' needs, their mission, their vision, their challenges, and their opportunities. In working together collaboratively, the community partner also benefits vis-a-vis having the outside perspective of a student team come in and help them look at their challenge or opportunity from a different perspective or a different lens. This model works particularly well because the students also have the opportunity throughout the quarter to engage in regular reflection on their learning and experiences. Together, the opportunity to learn while doing gives students the insight and the benefit of bridging theory and practice, and also gives them some really important visibility into the community, the rich and the diverse community that we have such the fortunate opportunity to be embedded in. and it gives the community partners an insight into what's going on in terms of the world of DePaul business students and really working together through this true partnership.
Community-based research, a type of project-based service learning, involves students engaging in research with communities in direct support of questions defined by communities.
My name is Annie Saw, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at DePaul. I'm committed to community-based participatory research that promotes health and mental health, and I work primarily with Asian American immigrant and refugee communities. Community-based research can be incorporated into a wide variety of classes at undergraduate and graduate levels. I've done so in courses like Introduction to Health Psychology and a first-year seminar on Asian American food. I keep a few things in mind when I plan when and how to incorporate community-based research into my classes. Finding opportunities to integrate community-based research activities into a course isn't always easy. I try to pick courses where these activities enhance students' learning outcomes in a meaningful way. For example, in my first-year seminar exploring contemporary issues impacting Asian Americans through explorations of food, students were asked to examine community perspectives on how the COVID-19 pandemic was impacting Asian restaurants through interviewing restaurant owners and exploring published stories. It's also important for students to have a foundational understanding of community-based participatory research and how it might differ from other forms of research. I think it's critically important to teach students that community-based research should be mutually beneficial for community members as well as academic researchers, and to build on and enhance the strengths and resources within the community. Community-based research should be sustainable, involve equitable decision-making, and be locally relevant. Lastly, integrating community-based research works best when you as a professor or students themselves already have established relationships with community partners. Given the time-limited nature of a given course and the long process of developing meaningful academic community partnerships, instructors should be careful in designing research opportunities that enrich student learning while also benefiting and not inadvertently creating harm to communities. As an instructor, I remind myself that students can get involved in all aspects of research, even if those aspects aren't directly community-facing. Instructors should explore what makes most sense for them as researchers and instructors, and talk with their community partners about what would be most helpful for them, given the constraints of a traditional course timeframe. Sometimes it might make more sense to assign course activities that involve more behind-the-scenes aspects of research. For example, translating already collected and analyzed data into dissemination products for communities. In some ways, the specific activities or products aren't nearly as important as helping students understand the value of partnering with communities through research and making sure the activities are helpful to both students and community members. I strongly believe that as long as instructors are themselves committed to community-based research, have existing community partnerships, then integrating the research into courses can be a fun and interesting way to connect students with communities, bring their energy and passion into a project, and demonstrate to them how they can use their talents and knowledge to support what's important in communities they live in.
Advocacy or activist learning involves students directly in campaign work to end behaviors that are oppressing or marginalizing populations, or to change policies or create new ones that support communities. Solidarity work is our work with the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program, where on-campus students engage directly in learning with incarcerated students at 2 prisons in the Chicago area.
Hello, my name is Christina Rivers. I'm an associate professor of political science, and I teach courses generally that are on race, law, and voting rights. I also teach an Inside Out class on law, politics, and mass incarceration. So my comments will focus on the Inside Out course as an example of advocacy courses in collaboration with the Steans Center. Really briefly, the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program is a program where DePaul teaches a host of courses at Stateville Correctional Center and at Cook County Jail. Classes typically consist of 12 inside incarcerated students and 12 outside traditional students, and classes take place in the prison and jail settings. A highlight of my course has been the law and policy think tank that emerged from the course that I teach there. This gives us an opportunity to discuss laws and policies that directly impact incarcerated students and their families and communities, and to take on more of those discussions after the short time of a quarter. Over time, our think tank took on an advocacy role as we began writing and proposing legislation that is related to criminal law and reentry issues. I want to point out this gets tricky engaging in advocacy in an institution that generally discourages such work. Ultimately, the think tank wrote a bill that became a law in 2019 called the Reentering Citizens Civic Education Act. This bill calls for civic instruction as part of the exit process from the Illinois Department of Corrections, civic and voting instruction in education. This bill was a result of collaborative advocacy where the collaboration included students from our Inside Out courses, and we later added community partners such as the Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and the organization Chicago Votes. So the think tank is an example of advocacy via citizen-based legislation. Not all of our bills become law, but our work certainly gives voice to those who have otherwise been politically silenced. Several Inside Out and think tank participants are also now in advocacy-based careers. This includes those who are working as community organizers, those who advocate for incarcerated adults, juveniles, or those with incarcerated loved ones. Some are working as legislative staff, some are social workers or in social work degree programs, graduate programs. Some are lawyers or law students with the goals of infusing a restorative and transformative justice approach into criminal law. And some are working as prison abolitionists. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. And I wish you all the best with your work in engaging in advocacy through the Steans Center. Thank you.
Regardless of the modality that you select for your service learning course, the Steans Center also supports online community engagement and remote service learning projects. Every quarter, we offer a series of modules that can be integrated into curriculum and relate directly to critical community level issues. Each Friday, there's a live event online where students and faculty can engage directly with community partners working on those events. Keep a lookout for regular quarterly updates on the Steans Center's online community engagement series. There are numerous outcomes and benefits of service learning as a pedagogy. The list of positive outcomes from community-based service learning from the literature is extensive. Students are better able to apply and test academic learning. They are better able to synthesize knowledge by bringing together past and present learning. They learn deeper about issues of cultural diversity and inclusion. They learn how communities become resilient and build community assets. They develop a better sense of their own personal values as they relate to issues that they experience within the community. For faculty, they can create scholarship and research agendas through service learning, develop opportunities to publish about their teaching, or dive deeper into their own praxis. For community partners, students can sustain and enhance organizational capacity to help fulfill an organization's mission. They can support research that helps build funds for an organization or supports program development. They can develop broader networks with organizations and faculty and other institutions through their partnerships with universities. So how do we begin? All service learning begins with course learning objectives. The starting place for developing your course is asking, what are your course learning objectives? How will service learning fit into those learning objectives? When students finish your course, what skills and attitudes should they have? How will service learning contribute to meeting learning objectives? If service learning is integrated well into course learning objectives, into course assignments, into classroom learning, and to reflection, we always see positive outcomes. In our service learning evaluations, that we do each quarter at DePaul. We get responses like this to questions about recognizing the strength, resources, and ability of a community in contributing to its own development, better understanding social and systemic inequalities, challenging students to learn from the perspective of others, contributing to an understanding of course content, contributing to a better understanding of future goals. So how can faculty begin to develop a service learning component for their courses? How can they begin to think about how the skills and talents of their students can benefit communities while students enhance those very skills and talents? It begins by deciding on the community-based service learning modality and how it would align with the course learning objectives. We ask you to work with us and share your course details with our staff. Begin to partner with our academic service learning team. We ask you to engage in challenging and supportive ways with students and ask them about the types of things that they can see themselves doing within communities. We ask you to build relationships with community partners and to learn how to integrate reflection opportunities into your assignments and classroom discussions. We ask you to begin to think about how you will showcase the important work that your students do for both the community and the university. Part of this reflection involving the faculty member involves understanding the experiences you bring to teaching. Examine your own cultural identity. Think about humility that it takes to work with communities, especially communities that have experienced oppression, marginalization, and economic distress. Emphasize to your students these points and that the stakes are higher when there are community members involved that have vulnerable situations. Make a safe space for your students and your community partners. Reflection will be the most important component of your course. It's a learned skill. It can be practiced through writing, discussion, presentation, and even performance. Students and community partners can also facilitate reflection. It should be continuous, connected, challenging, contextualized, and coached. Perhaps most importantly is the building of authentic community partnerships. There must be agreed upon missions, goals, and measurable outcomes for service learning components. There must be a sense of trust, respect, and commitment. There must be a focus on identifying assets and strengths. There should be an understanding of the balance of power and resources between the university and the communities that are being worked with. Clear, open, and accessible communication is essential, as is a common language. Establish a clear set of rules, norms, and processes with your students and how you engage with community in general. Take time to develop relationships. The most successful service learning involves faculty having direct dialogue with community partners. It involves faculty considering their departments as potential partners of different communities. It involves faculty looking at community partners as co-educators, asking questions about the goals of the partnership in communication with the partners, speaking transparently about concerns about the partnership and what needs to be worked on. We know from research that we've done with community partners that they are concerned with a variety of practical issues, especially when it comes to direct service programs. These have to do with the constraints that many organizations face. Those constraints include financial barriers and the time that staff apply to supporting our students. You also need to determine how service learning fits into assessment processes. Formative assessment processes will involve regular feedback on students' learning as part of structured reflections, such as through a journal that's assessed for integration of concepts, theories, and methods with experience from working with the community. Summative assessments involve a larger understanding of the knowledge from the course and require students to demonstrate their ability to transfer that knowledge to a new context. So how do you get started then developing your service learning course with support from the Steans Center? The Steans Center has a set of program managers that help facilitate site introductions and meetings. They can consult on course design and reflection and developing a co-vision for service opportunities with communities. They will also support you in relation to risk issues and compliance issues for DePaul. Down the line, you will have support from service learning coordinators, graduate students who help facilitate placement presentations and student community introductions. They are the first point of contact for students, and they support student success by monitoring projects, hours, navigating challenges, and documenting successes. Lastly, we will have an evaluator work with your course to make sure that there's an addendum evaluation integrated with your online teaching evaluation so that you can get feedback on the service learning component of your course. The Steans Center also provides additional support for service learning and teaching at DePaul. We offer a set of workshops and a certificate program involving 4 workshops and a capstone project with a community immersion workshop. Faculty receive a $350 honorarium for participation. There are also service learning instructional grants through DePaul's Public Service Council and even departmental service learning grants that provide opportunities for group initiatives to incorporate service learning. The Steans Center also offers a community-based research faculty fellowship program where fellows receive a $4,000 stipend and a funded research assistant for up to 3 quarters. Faculty also receive support to present at a conference. The research project must be driven by the interest of a community and benefit a community. Community partners also receive a stipend. The Steans Center also supports faculty on doing research and developing scholarship focused on service learning and community engagement. There are numerous peer-reviewed journals that support scholarship on service learning. There are also numerous conferences that support service learning presentations, research, and workshops. Please contact us at the Steans Center to move forward on developing your service learning component. For faculty interested in developing service learning for the first time, contact Helen Damon-Moore. For faculty interested in community-based research, contact Howard Rosing. Thank you for listening and watching this video. We look forward to supporting the service learning component of your course.